Hey friend, have you ever wondered how hard could it possibly be to hit the New York Times list? And is that something that's possible for my book? If that's you, you need to watch this video. My name's Kelly Notaras, and I'm the founder of KN Literary Arts. We are your one-stop shop, getting you from wherever you are to having a book in your hand. So please visit us at knliterary.com. I have also been a book editor in the US publishing business for over 25 years. I bring all of that wisdom to you right here on this YouTube channel for free. So please hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon so you never miss a video. I understand why people would want to hit the New York Times list. It seems to be one of the most visible sort of metrics of whether or not your book is doing well to the average person, because the average author does not have access to any of the systems that would tell them how many books are selling. So they have to go to sort of public information, and the New York Times list and honestly the Amazon ranking are the two things that most authors are looking at when they're wondering whether or not their book is doing well. So I want to just talk to you about the New York Times list, because so often I have people who come to me and they say, I want to hit the list. And I know, because I'm in the publishing business, that there's almost no chance that they are going to hit the list. Not because the book isn't good, and not because it's not going to be super entertaining to the people who want to read it, but because it's probably too specialized, and maybe at the point they are in their career, there aren't even going to be enough copies in the marketplace. Because in order to hit one of the main lists on the New York Times, that might be hardcover fiction, that might be paperback nonfiction, or advice, how-to, miscellaneous, you're going to have to sell a lot of copies in a very short period of time. So that's what gets you onto a list like the New York Times, is you're selling high quantity at high velocity. Now, in most cases of all of those lists, you're going to need to be selling, let's say, in the neighborhood of 10,000 copies in a single week. Now, many of you who understand the publishing business know most new authors, they're not even going to have 10,000 copies printed of their very first book, especially if they are not yet a really well-known household name. They're most likely going to start off with something like 7,500 copies. And then hopefully those copies will sell quickly because of the author's efforts and the publisher's ability to get them into bookstores, and people, can see them there, and then the author is promoting them, and then those books sell, and then it goes to a second print run quickly. That would be the goal, right? But unfortunately, that goal, which is in many ways a best case scenario for a first-time author, that's not putting 10,000 copies in the marketplace even in the first week that the book is published, meaning that there's actually no logistical way the book could ever hit the list. Now, am I telling you this to discourage you, to kill your dream? I am not. I just want to give you the facts so you understand what you're up against if that is a goal that you have. There's one more thing you need to know about the New York Times list, which is that list, while yes, of course, it's associated with the number of books that are selling, it also is a proprietary sort of algorithm that they do behind the scenes to figure out which books they're going to put on the list. So it's not always truly the book that has the most copies selling that week that gets the slot on the list. There is this sort of proprietary behind closed doors system that they use to determine which books are going to hit the list. So even if you put all of your diligence and maybe even money behind getting the book out in the marketplace and getting enough sales to happen that it should hit the list, that is still no guarantee that it's going to. In other words, you'll hear me, who's a very pragmatic person, say, I don't want you to even care about the New York Times list. Not when you're getting started. If you are further down in your career and you have hundreds of thousands of people on your email list that are ready and waiting to buy your book, that's a different story. I talk often about how many of my authors are at what I call the seed phase of their journey, meaning they want to put a book in the world because it's going to help them grow or help them gain sort of notoriety and a following, or that this is their first novel they've put into the world and they need to build on that momentum over the course of time. That is more of a seed point in the journey. People who hit the New York Times list in most cases are more at the harvest end of their journey. These are people who already have hundreds of thousands of people following them and ideally on their email list. They are still not guaranteed to hit the list, let's say that, but they're in a better position to do so because they can try to force their following to buy their book, pre-order it, and have it all those sales hit in the first week that the book is out. So it's a really careful choreography to try to get at least, let's say, 10,000 people to buy the book in that first week. And of course, not everyone on your list is going to buy the book, and it's actually only a fraction of the people that are going to do so. And certainly the people that are going to pre-order it is a fraction of the people that are going to buy it in the first month. So it's just a real numbers game, honestly, to get enough people to pre-order so that it can hit the list in that first week. That's one way to hit the list. There is another way, which is that at some point later on in your career, something happens. You have been building using that book that you put into the world as sort of a step in the process of getting people to follow you. Down the line, something happens for you that the book takes off. That is something that publishers are always hoping for, and it does happen very often. I think about Brené Brown. When she first put out The Gifts of Imperfection, that was one of her earlier books, it didn't actually go anywhere. But once she started becoming famous, she had an amazing TED Talk that took off. We started seeing that book selling more and more copies. And then when her next book came out, The Gifts of Imperfection hit the list because people were buying both of them. So that kind of thing can happen for you as well. It happens for a lot of people. Just know it's not only the first week of your book out in the world that it could hit the list, but to hit the list, it does need to hit that velocity plus volume. Those two things have to happen hand in hand. Okay, so I'm going to finish this out by talking to you about a way that you actually can get a better sense of how your book is selling. So that is the Amazon bestseller rank. And this is something that I find people are quite confused about because people want to call themselves a bestseller. So they are always looking for a place where they are at the top on a smaller category on the Amazon list. So if you go to your book page or any book page and you scroll down to the sort of fine print, you'll find where it talks about the publisher and the date the book was published and the number of pages, etc. If you scroll to the very bottom of that list of minutia, we call it, or details, you will see that there are going to be 3 Amazon sales rankings. The first one is the one that you want to pay attention to because the second 2 are in categories, oftentimes categories of categories. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say with my own book, The Book You Were Born to Write, it's usually in, it'll be sort of in writing, nonfiction, and then it'll be in writing, and then it'll be in like author, help or something like that. And in that category, there aren't that many books. So for my book to be high ranking in that category is easier than it would be to hit overall book rankings. And the overall book rankings is where you want to look. So in general, self-published books, for example, are often in the hundreds of thousands, even the millions on that overall ranking, because most people who self-publish don't educate themselves the way you are doing right now by watching this YouTube video, and they don't know how to get the word out about their book. Thus, they end up with a book that's not selling that well. That's going to be in the millions or the high hundreds of thousands. The books that are selling well, meaning that they are continuing to sell over time, you want to look for books that are ranking under 50,000 on the overall Amazon ranking. So this is out of all books that are sold on Amazon. If they are under 50,000, they're selling. They might not be selling a ton. They might be selling 1 or 2 copies a week, but they are selling, which is a big deal when you're in the face of all these other books that are out there that aren't selling any copies, right? Then if you really want to see like, a book that's actually really working, that a publisher's probably super psyched to have on their list because over the course of time, it continues to sell copies and copies and copies, look for the books that are under 10,000 on that list. So obviously like the top Hot 100 is focused on. Amazon will promote that. You can look at their top 100 books, but even, those books are selling lots of copies. Those books are kind of the books that are selling at the velocity that they might make the New York Times list. But the books that are under 10,000 are continuing to sell. So if you want to put something in your mind's eye as a goal that you have for your book, by all means, put it on the New York Times list. I love that. Put it in the top 100 on Amazon. I love that. But if you have a more realistic energy, more pragmatic like I am, you might want to say, okay, I want to consistently have my book be in the top 10,000 books that are selling on Amazon, and that would be really good. All right, I hope this has been helpful to you. I would love to know, what are your goals for sales for your book? And is your book at the seed level or the harvest level? I'd love to hear from you. And you can always find out more by visiting knliterary.com. Don't hesitate to schedule a call if it feels like you are ready to work with an editor, because we would love to work with you. All right, take care and happy writing.